On today's episode, I break health and safety codes, use my hand as a pallet, drop stuff twice, and cheat. Welcome back, ladies and gents. Really appreciate the love on the last video. Hope you enjoyed it. Today we are going to be painting up the KV1. Now, I don't have room for an airbrush setup in my workbench area. I need to get a little bit creative and build a collapsible spray booth, and I will do that at some point when I have some time. So we are going to be stippling this tank in its entirety, building up those layers, building up those textures. Now, the advantage of stippling is that where it is essentially a dry brush, but rather than just brushing over those top edges, you are stippling the paint on. You're building up that texture, you're putting in those shadows, and as you progress through, going lighter and lighter in the paints, we're adding more and more and more depth. I started off with a black base coat, just rattle can, and then using the MIG Russian 4BO modulation kit, a wet palette, and some Artist Opus dry brushes, which are lovely, though I wouldn't use them with Tamiya paints because you need to use liquid thinners, and I'm not sure whether they'll ruin them or not. I do have some other cheap dry brushes that I use with those kind of paints and with oil paints and what have you. But yeah, so we start off with the darkest colour, build up over time, making the brush smaller, making the areas covered a lot smaller to build up those highlighted levels. I'm not going to talk too much through this, so just sit back, chill out, and see what you think. So as you can see here, I'm starting off with that darkest colour, and I'm stippling fairly liberally, fairly watered down obviously with the wet palette, all over the main body of the tank. As you notice, in certain areas where I'm hitting raised areas, it's not picking up underneath, giving a bit of extra depth, a bit of extra shadow in areas that's going to be a lot darker than others. One thing I will say is what I noticed, because I've done this before on Space Marines and what have you. One thing I will say is that this picks up the texture that I added with the Tamiya putty last video amazingly well, and I can't wait to put some weathering over the top of that as well. It's going to look brilliant. The Mr. Sneaks track painting jig prototype Mark 1 is clearly a failure, and a dangerous failure at that. I need to get some dowel rods instead of using cocktail sticks. Gave up on that fairly quickly. So here I'm carrying on with those higher levels of highlight, still using stippling, just focusing more on the raised areas, picking those bits and pieces out that need to be highlighted, avoiding areas that are going to be in shadow, behind railings, underneath the turret, etc, etc. Just bringing out that depth, adding some more texture, especially with those stippled areas that are going to be hit by light. So for example, the front angle plates at the front of the tank, because the diorama that I'm planning on building is going to be head on. And doing the same with the tracks, with the road wheels. I then go over the tracks and some of the metallic areas with some Mechanica Standard Grey. It's a base paint from Citadel. It was a grey that I had to hand, and I painted a lot of 40k, so I've got an awful lot of 40k paints and Citadel paints available to me. Now, the observer of you will notice that there are no machine guns on this, because I ran into another issue. The tiny front mounted machine gun and the rear turret mounted machine gun were so fragile that they fell off whenever I kind of even looked at them a little bit funny. So what I've done is I've ordered some metal parts. I'm hoping that they will be with me fairly soon, and then what I'll do is I'll paint them up and I'll attach those. Then I cheat. I am really bad at freehand, especially script. My hand isn't the steadiest. It's something that I really need to practice, but especially painting in a language that I don't understand and having to use various reference pictures and the... So, what do you think? Here's the final painted up body of the tank. Obviously we've got weathering to do. We're going to be covering that in next week's video. But yeah, give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscribe. I do stream on Twitch 3 days a week, usually video games, and then most Saturdays I'll do a hobby stream where I'll be painting up some dioramas. I'll be chilling out, painting some toy soldiers, painting up some of these bits and pieces, not the ones you see in the YouTube videos. So come check us out, come hang out, let us know what you think of the model. I hope you like it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.